What's up, everyone? We're back with another episode of the Dub Jellison Podcast, and today I have a former Olympian, Chris Huffins, with me today. Chris, how you doing?
I'm great, Dub. What's going on?
Nothing much, just hanging in there. So we're kind of in the midst of this whole pandemic, and things really aren't slowing down. But I know it kind of hit close to home for you. Your mother contracted it. She ended up being okay, but kind of talk about what that whole experience was like and how tough that was to go through that as a family.
Man, I'll tell you, when you're on the phone with somebody and they're trying to beat on the door of your mom's apartment and you're just like waiting for somebody for basically proof of life, it's kind of one of the more surreal moments. So I wouldn't wish that on anybody, and it was kind of an out-of-body experience, but that, and then the 18 days she was on a ventilator, those were not the greatest of days, but honestly, it was the hospital people were really, really, really good, and they kept our spirits up and kept things positive, and we got through it.
Mm-hmm. So kind of talk, for people that didn't read the story, talk about the moment that led up to you going up to the door, banging on the door, and then what all happened after that.
Well, so I had talked to my mom like 4 days before that, and then I started getting these text messages and calls from her friends, like, have you seen your mom? Have you seen your mom? Have you seen your mom? Like, when's the last time we talked to your mom? And so we kind of figured out that I was the last person to talk to my mom. So nobody had seen her for 4 days. So we called the police to do a wellness check, because I don't live in Indy. I live like an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I had one of my friends on the phone who lives in Indy, basically waiting for the cops to get into my mom's apartment to see what was going on. And finally she answered the door. She was kind of weakened, really wheezy breath, and they took her to the hospital immediately.
Mm-hmm. So then what happened after that?
She went in, she was admitted. The doctor said that he thought that she had COVID. They had to do tests on her to find out the next day or 2 days later. I guess that at that time it was 2 days to find out, and they found out that she had it, and she kind of got worse day by day for about 3 days, and then they put her on a ventilator, and I think the fourth day they put her on a ventilator, and then she was on a ventilator for 18 days. And the crazy part is we didn't know like all the math on the ventilator. People, like 80 to 85% of the people who've been on ventilators have never come off.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that she went on a vent and was on a vent for more than 2 weeks and survived is honestly, it's by the grace of God. I was talking to her yesterday, and she's back to healthy living. She's walking and doing that kind of stuff, like for exercise. Her breathing kind of is still labored a little bit, and her only real sense of taste is salt. She said everything else is either kind of muted or gone.
So does she know if she's ever going to get that taste back?
Well, they don't know.
Or does it just...
They don't know. They believe that your sense of taste will come back. And I think, honestly, the younger you are, the greater that chance is. I think the older you are, the more effects COVID has on you, to be honest.
Yeah. So when she was in the hospital, what kind of was going through your mind and your family's mind? Did you try to go were you able to go see her at all, or were you completely kept out of the hospital?
Nah, they won't let you in the hospital. So I didn't see my mom for like 35 days, something like that.
So you said she's back walking now. Is everything else okay? Like, did she have any underlying health conditions before that?
No, that's what I mean. Like, she's up and she's like actually walking for exercise. Like, her and one of her friends, like, they walk the mall, and she's on an exercise program and all those other things. And she's not on oxygen anymore, and she's ostensibly back to normal.
Mm-hmm. So before your mother got sick, did you kind of brush off COVID to the side? And then if so, does this kind of change your view about it?
I never brushed it off. I mean, I've always thought it was something that we needed to pay attention to, and it was something that we needed to protect ourselves against. But I think when anything that touches home is always going to be even more pertinent.
Yeah, I have to agree. So we've also seen it's kind of an outrage against wearing masks, making people wear masks in stores and whatnot. Do you have any feelings towards that?
Yeah, I think people that don't want to wear a mask are stupid, and all of their reasons and rationale for not wanting to wear a mask are also asinine.
Yeah.
I think it's a dumb thought. Well, it's my right to not wear a mask. Like, okay, well, sure, but if you're asymptomatic and you're walking around breathing on other people, right? So then, what are you going to pay? You're going to have ownership for the people you get sick? No, you're not. So wear your damn mask and be a jackass.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. My favorite argument is how it's infringing on people's rights.
It's stupid.
That like a store like Walmart is having people wear masks. I mean, I think it's a simple inconvenience. It doesn't bother me that much.
It's not even an inconvenience if we're going to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, look, if you look at what we're talking about, it's like wear a mask or potentially get killed or kill people. Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about the defense against this mechanism, this craziness that's killing people is to wear a mask, stand 6 feet from people, and wash your hands. This is not asking you to do anything crazy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't really understand why people don't want to do it. I guess it boils down to politics, but I don't really want to get into all that nonsense.
I would just tell you, if you live longer, you'll understand that there's just people out there that want to be contrary no matter what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I've started to notice that kind of as a younger person, I see people that kind of hate towards authority figures. And I think that they just don't like being told what to do. And that's maybe. But this has also impacted you as a baseball agent. That's what Zach told me, that you've started in that venture.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to travel a fair amount. Like since things have kind of opened, I've been on a plane like 3 times. So that's an interesting experience. I mean, you're wearing a mask from the time you walk into the airport until you walk out. So in the airport, waiting for your plane, security, the entire plane ride, and then waiting for your bag and then leaving.
Mm-hmm. So where did you have to go for those 3 times that you got on the plane?
Let's see. I've been to Atlanta. I went. Where did I go before Atlanta? Wow, what's wrong with me? I know I have to go to South Dakota here in a week. And I went to Hoover, Alabama before that.
What were y'all doing there?
Perfect Game Junior National was in Hoover. Atlanta was World Woodbat 16U and Lake Point 17U. And South Dakota is one of my guys is from Pierre, South Dakota.
So why did you want to get into this kind of profession of being a baseball agent? Did it have anything have to do with Zach becoming a MLB player?
So it's funny, not really, but yes. So not really because of him, but because of his advisor, who then became his agent. He inspired me through all of his work with Zach and all of the growth and things that I got to see my son go through. I thought that that's something that I could do and be good at and bring good to the world that way.
Mm-hmm. So how has this whole COVID situation and the ongoing talks between the MLB and the MLBPA and all that stuff, the shortened season, how has that kind of impacted you and your guys?
Well, the bigger thing is it's not even the shortened season. It's the fact that there's no minor league season. We've had to deal with that. I mean, both in my house and with a couple of my guys. The shortened season, I don't think it really has affected anybody other than like the actual players playing in MLB.
Yeah. So how much I've always wanted to ask this of an agent, how much work goes behind the scenes of negotiating deals and things of that nature?
A lot.
So so say you had, like, I came out, I got drafted in the second round or whatever. Like, how long would it take for you to negotiate my deal?
I mean, that deal's probably done within a week. But it's all the other deals. It's
Mm-hmm.
look, for first, second, third rounder, like those deals are not that hard to figure out. Like you look at where slot is, you figure out how close to slot or over slot or whatever you're gonna try to be, and that's it. But it's the guy that gets taken in the 13th round or 15th round that you're trying to work on getting them over slot, and you want to make sure that they've got an instruct invite, and you want to make sure they're going to legitimately have a chance at a career.
Mm-hmm.
What's been crazy is this free agency piece this year, these $20,000 slots. I've got a couple guys that I'm like, I feel adamant somebody should take for 20 grand, and scouts keep saying that they really like them, but nobody's pulling the trigger.
So
But
what?
part of it is just there's too many baseball players in the same places right now, not getting a chance to play and separate themselves.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that?
Well, because of COVID, with no minor league season and no real collegiate season and no real JUCO season and no real high school season, there's just a gigantic pot of talented players, but they
Mm-hmm.
haven't separated themselves on the field yet.
Yeah, I can see that. It's hard to get seen when no baseball is happening. I've seen a little bit of baseball here in Noblesville at the Babe Ruth Fields. They've been putting on some games. I haven't gone and watched any, but I've seen them when I drove by. So who are some of the guys that you're working most closely with, that you're representing?
Well, it's funny with all my pre-draft guys, I can't really tell you that.
Uh,
Um, but let's just say that one of the more famous guys in junior college next year it will be a KHG guy and a Chris Huffins guy. And there's quite a few exciting players. I'll leave it at that.
all right, fair enough. Maybe you'll tell me off air.
Yeah,
So
we
we
could do that.
we talked about your son, Zach. I played with him in ninth grade, I believe, right? Fresh or like 15U, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But way back in the day, and he was a stud back then. So talk about kind of his journey from starting varsity as a freshman all the way to getting to the Tampa Bay Rays, where he is now.
Huh. Well, I guess it's kind of like, in a lot of ways, it's what you would think. It isn't exactly that. But I mean, he was a 4-year varsity starter, and he's always one of the best players and all those things, and he always kind of stood out when he played. But in Indiana, if you don't live in Marion County or Hamilton County or Boone County, kind of nobody really pays attention to you. So because we live way up here, um, he was always really good, but never really famous, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so the junior college route was a really good route for him. We went to school way out in Yuma, Arizona, where the focus was on baseball and school, and he dominated both of those. And after 2 years, or really after one, but for sure after 2 years, he was kind of one of the more sought after people in the entire country. He was recruited by schools from every Power Five conference. And then finally it settled in between ASU and the University of Miami, and he picked ASU, and then the draft happened, and he was taken in a good spot for a good number by a great team. So it was kind of in all honesty, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
As tough as it was not to go to ASU, and it was tough. As tough as it was easy to pick the Rays.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anyone could say no to the MLB, especially at that point. But all right, so I mean, Zach obviously took after you and your athletic genes, being a former Olympian, track star at Cal. Did you kind of see that as he grew older, and how your other son is growing too? I know he's getting pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, having been a coach for so long, like you just see, movement patterns and those kind of things. And he was always athletic, but as he kind of got a little older, the athlete in him came out, and he's really doesn't like to lose. He's got a voracious work ethic, and he's the kind of guy that's willing to make the sacrifices to be great. And as a dad, I couldn't be more proud of that, to be honest.
hmm So, kind of talk about your upbringing and how you got into sports and what you think from your childhood made you so great.
I don't know. I have no idea what from my childhood made me great, other than I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and you kind of it's a survival of the fittest kind of thing. But athletically, I mean, sports was always my outlet,
hmm
and really and truly, like I did sports in high school to try to go to college. It wasn't until I was deep into college that I realized that could be a profession for me. But I won't lie to you. Like when I was in high school, I didn't think I was going to be a professional anything athlete because I wanted to be a basketball player, and I didn't think that that was going to be in the cards for me professionally. So I just wanted to be good enough to go to college and get some school paid for.
hmm So when you were in high school, did you how many other sports did you play besides track and basketball, or were those the only two?
I did track and basketball in high school. That was it.
And then when did you kind of focus on track and say, hey, oh, this could be something more?
My senior year.
Your senior years when you dropped basketball.
hmm
So then talk about the recruiting process. Being from Brooklyn, New York, you went to Cal. What was that whole situation like?
Well, the recruiting process is always a pretty simple, straightforward one for me. Like there were when I was in high school, there were a lot of D2 schools and probably 3 or 4 D1 schools that liked me. Um, I thought I was going to go to Florida A&M, and they kind of were moving slower than they should have been, and Purdue kind of snuck in and gave an offer that we could accept, and I ended up going there for 2 years. And then when I transferred, the recruiting process the second time was like haywire. Like everybody wanted me because I was actually really good at that point, and I didn't even really. I wasn't one of those people that was like dying to be recruited, so I kind of orchestrated it myself. Like I picked the state that had, excuse me, that the states that had the weather I wanted, picked the schools that had the academics I wanted, and then from that group I picked the schools that had track programs that I wanted. So I kind of culled my list down myself to 4 or 5.
hmm And then did you notice any change between? Or I'm sure you did, but from the high school level to Purdue to when you transferred to Cal.
Oh yeah, I mean each step was a different level, to be honest, and um, I was just so hungry and adamant to be as good as I possibly could that it like the level changes didn't matter to me.
hmm So did your mindset change at all, or were you all in all the time from the get go?
I was pretty much all gas, no brakes from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean I can see that. So at what point when you were at Cal did you think, oh, I might be able to turn this into an Olympic career or something of that nature?
My 4th year in college. So my 4th year, which I redshirted, and then my 5th year, so which was my senior year, is when I kind of realized I could be a professional.
hmm And then I'm not sure about that whole process. So what goes into after you graduate from Cal? What are the next steps to career?
Well, basically, usually in track and field, your main sponsorship is from a shoe company. Mine was a shoe company and an eyeglass company, and so I was an Oakley athlete and a Mizuno athlete, and for half my career, and then the last half of it, I was an Oakley athlete head to toe. I was the first one of those that they ever had. So I made a lot of money in that deal because they had to basically buy my shoe contract and buy my apparel contract.
Mm-hmm.
So where before it was, I had a shoe sponsor and apparel sponsor, which they were the same, but there was the deal for that, and I had an eyewear sponsorship. They basically went from that to like buying the whole body. So I think my salary from Oakley tripled from what it was going into '96 to what it was coming out.
Mm-hmm. So after that, that's how you kind of got your start. And then what steps did you take in terms of training and trying to make the Olympic team?
Well, I mean, for me, it was just I knew I was in a good training situation, a good training environment. So I just did what I had to do, and I made a team in '96. And then after '96, I came back and making the team wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to win a medal. So I just kind of made the advancements and the changes and the additions that were necessary to what I was doing to ensure that I was a medalist in 2000.
Mm-hmm. So before that, I want to talk about how much you guys on the Olympic team train. I know it's an insane amount. I could never dream of it. So, like, what was a typical day, like a typical Monday? What did that look like for you in terms of training, how much sleep you got, and the types of things you ate?
I mean, basically for me, I trained 3 events a day, 6 days a week for just about 11 months of the year. My diet was pretty simple. I didn't really eat very much like fatty foods or fast foods or those kind of things. I ate a tremendous amount of protein.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of it. There was lots of meat eaten by me.
Yeah. I saw this thing where it was talking about how many calories an Olympic athlete needs to take in per day. It was like, I think it was like 9,000, but I'm sure I'm wrong. So how many
It's a
calories?
lot.
It's a lot. You just kind of have to force feed yourself at all?
No.
Or are you
I was never in a situation where I needed to gain weight.
Mm-hmm.
I just had to put in enough fuel so that my body wasn't starting to, cannibalize itself. But even in that scenario, I probably ate between 5,000 and 7,500, between 5,000 and 7,500 calories a day.
So what all did you eat? Just meat and protein shakes?
See, I didn't do protein shakes. I just ate food. So
Yeah.
like at breakfast, I would have when I was at the Olympic Training Center, I would have an omelet that had either sausage or bacon, a vegetable, and I would have that for breakfast and a large orange juice. And then for lunch, it was usually like a tremendous number of cold cuts. So like I ate a lot of breadless sandwiches. So I would take a piece of ham or a piece of turkey and then like load it up like a sandwich, right? And I'd have like 5 of those with no bread because I was never really a carbs guy.
Yeah.
So like I would have a sandwich, so to speak, that would like, let's say a piece of lettuce that inside it had like 2 pieces of turkey, pepperoni, salami, bell peppers, cheese, a hard-boiled egg. You know what I mean? Like it would have like 9 things in it, and I have like 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah. Is that a consistent theme through all the Olympic Training Center?
Yeah, I think most people eat a lot of protein.
Mm-hmm. And then, excuse me. So I'm assuming you lived out there at the training center, correct?
At one point, yes.
So what was that experience like, and how long did you live there?
Off and on for 3 years, and it was so like to me, it was a great experience because it was just like it was what I always thought an Olympic training center should be. Like I trained, I ate, I trained, I ate, I lifted, I watched TV, and I slept, and that was like rinse and repeat every day.
So when you
So every day I trained, ate, lifted, weighed myself, like every day.
mm-hmm. So when you trained, what specific things were you doing there?
Everything. I mean, for me, I always did one running event, one jumping event, one throwing event every day for 6 days a week.
Mm-hmm. And then when you lifted, what types of things did you do in terms of that? Were you doing a lot of squats? I'm assuming you weren't doing a whole lot of bench. Maybe you were. I don't know. I'm not totally sure, but
I was. My core lifts were cleans, snatch pulls, squat, front squat, bench or dumbbell bench. Yeah, that was kind of the core, and then we filled in after that.
mm-hmm. And is it different for different athletes that do different sports, or is it mostly the same?
Yeah, it's definitely different from sport to sport.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so
me being a decathlete, I kind of lifted to be able to do everything.
mm-hmm. Did you see any other like huge stars that I would know? I'm not a huge follower of the Olympics, but did you see any big time Olympic guys that you were kind of like starstruck when you saw them?
No, never starstruck, but I mean, I've met my share of famous people.
Who are some of your favorites?
Well, the whole dream team from 2000, I hung out with. So Kevin Garnett and Vince Carter and Jason Kidd and Gary Payton and that whole crew. Same with women's basketball. Same with the baseball teams from in '96 and 2000. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I met Dolph Lundgren. He was actually a coach. He's the guy that played Drago in the Rocky movies.
Mm-hmm.
He was a coach for like the modern biathlon or something. Something they're really good at. So I think he's Austrian. Something they're really good in Austria, and he was one of the coaches for the U.S. team. He's huge.
Oh yeah, I would assume so. So did you hang out with those guys a lot, or was it just like come and go, you'd be in the same place at the same time?
Well, I went to breakfast with the U.S. tennis team every day in '96. So I had breakfast with Mal Washington and Monica Seles and a couple other tennis players pretty much every day.
Mm. And then so fast forward to when you did go to compete in the Olympics, what was that whole spectacle like? I can only imagine like the nerves and anxiety that you kind of had to feel right before you were going to compete in the moments leading up to it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the Olympics are an interesting thing. Like the nerves and all that stuff, they happen like when you're trying to make the team. Like once you're there in the opening ceremonies and all that things, you're not nervous, I don't think, so much as you're just anxious to compete.
Yeah.
The whole thing happens over 16 days, and the first 7 days there's no track events. So you're just watching and like going to water polo and swimming and that kind of thing.
So how much were you training in that period?
Pretty hard.
Pretty hard. Like almost as tough as before?
Yeah, it was just preparation stuff. So like it's not like training to fatigue, but it's a lot of mental reps and a lot of very specified training.
Mm-hmm. And your calling card was the decathlon. What do you think attracted that to you the most? Or were you
That's pretty simple. That, like, the ultimate goal is the title of world's greatest athlete. I mean, is there anything better?
So you won a bronze medal in the 2000 Olympics. What were you kind of disappointed that you didn't get the gold, or were you super excited to get the bronze?
Both.
Yeah, I figured you would be. I know how competitive you are. But did it feel good to get that recognition or that achievement
For sure. For sure.
So were you on that when you were on that podium? What was kind of going through your head?
The funny thing is, like, if I had won, that they'd be playing a different song. But just being very proud of being there and soaking in the moment, because I think so often athletes in the moment don't have appreciation for what they're doing. Mm-hmm. It's not till you're retired and older that you're like, oh yeah, I guess that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And then I thought I saw a picture of you holding Zach was that at those games?
That was in those games.
Was that like to have him there?
That's pretty awesome. I think he was 18 months old.
Yeah, he couldn't have been. He's like a year older than me, I think. So he couldn't have been that old. I was born in 2000.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, he was born in June of '99.
Yeah, so he wasn't that old.
Yeah, he was less than 2.
So that Olympics was in Sydney. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry. I was drinking some ginger beer and all the bubbles got in my nose twice. So I'm going to leave it alone.
All right, fair enough. So last thing, I got to get going here pretty soon. But that Olympics was in Sydney. What were some of your favorite places to go? Was it Sydney, or did you travel anywhere else that you thought was really cool, or something that you didn't expect?
Australia is amazing. Sweden is amazing. Iceland is amazing. Believe it or not, Russia is amazing. China is scary. Not like scary like you think there's an impending doom, but it's amazing that there's that large a number of people that are being kept in the dark about what happens in America. But
what do you mean? Like what things did you see?
China's a communist country, so like the information flow into China is controlled. Mm-hmm. So, but I think the biggest thing that you notice when you travel the world is like America's not who we think it is. The rest of the world doesn't necessarily see us the way we see ourselves.
Yeah, I had Leona Boudreau on the podcast a couple weeks ago. She's from Canada, or both she and Melissa Prieto. I had her on the podcast as well. She's from Mexico. They both said that they kind of like in this day and age, they kind of look down on us in terms of like how we handle things and how how well our country is doing.
Yes.
So could you sense that? Could you sense that when you went to places like Sweden or Australia or China?
For sure. For sure. We like to paint ourselves as like, the industry leaders around the world. And I'll tell you, the rest of the world is not looking to take like direction from the United States on most things.
Yeah. I mean, I have to agree. And right now I don't really blame them. But like I said, I got to get going. It was nice to see you again, although we did it virtually. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Plug your JUCO pod real quick. Tell people where they can find that.
Well, our website is at _ the JBB, and the podcast comes out weekly on Mondays. It's the JUCO pod, and if you love, or really want to hear about junior college baseball, that's the place to be.
Yep, for sure. Everybody go check that out. Chris Huffins, thank you so much.
Thanks, Dub.
Peace out, everybody.